If I'm still alive, I will come back. You know.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Fine. Thank you.
That's good.
Bad. Oh, that's great. I wish all interviews were that short.
Freddie's voice can be heard.
Freddie had an amazing voice.
He could do just about anything. He could do the sweetest, he could do deep, powerful.
Love of my life, don't leave me. You've stolen my love, you now desert me.
It's such a great star, bubbler. Such a great star. Nobody can replace Freddie Mercury. That's a monster fate.
An incredible depth, a real richness of voice.
Most people look at Freddie and say it's probably the greatest voice to ever come out of rock and roll, and probably a fair description.
Freddie Mercury was showbiz, bubbler. He should have been in pantomime, really, you know, as one of the ugly sisters, or, you know. And boy, you was ugly, Freddie. I loved you, but you were ugly.
Renowned as one of the greatest performers of the 20th century, Freddie Mercury pushed the boundaries of art and music as he spearheaded Queen, one of the greatest bands in music and rock history. His limitless vocal power and extravagant stage performances shocked and wowed audiences around the world. But out of the spotlight, he was intensely private. His tragic death at the age of 45 left an empty spotlight that will never be filled. This is the story of Freddie Mercury, and how a shy boy from Zanzibar took to the stage and became one of the most iconic figures in modern history.
You have a very extrovert stage act by any standards. Will you be able to go on with...
You mean I flaunted?
You're over the top.
With one of the most recognizable voices ever.
I've always been intrigued by show business artists who become their own image. One of the great examples of that is Bryan Ferry, of course, who came from the northeast of England. He came from poverty, and with Roxy he went through various images. It was very exciting, a different image every year, and then he settled on the English gentleman look, and he became an English gentleman. And indeed, he was honored in the Queen's birthday honors list in 2011. That's a great example of someone becoming their own image. Well, Freddie is one of the greatest cases of reinvention of image there's ever been in show business. Very few people who were Freddie Mercury fans know he was Farrokh Bulsara. And indeed, if you bear in mind that I got to know him in 1974, I never heard anybody call him Farrokh. It's rather like Elton John. You didn't call him Reg. Once he decided he wanted to be Elton, you called him Reg at your peril. And Farrokh wanted to be called Freddie. Within music, everyone was calling him Freddie.
By the time I met him, he was definitely Freddie. And in fact, it was some time before I realised that what his original name was, because he still had a passport in his birth name. But he lived his character. He was Freddie Mercury, and that was all he wanted to be.
I'm sure most people who are Queen fans would just assume he'd been born in England, but in fact he was born in Zanzibar. His parents had come from India.
Young Farrokh was sent to St. Peter's English boarding school in Panchgani, India, in 1954, at the age of 8. It was here that his classmates nicknamed him Freddie. As well as being a good sportsman, he was incredibly artistic. He had begun taking piano lessons at the age of 7 and continued to pursue music and the arts throughout his youth.
If you're taking in music, if you're playing music as a child, it's second nature to you when you're an adult. But also, even if you're not performing it as an adult, it gives you insights as to what the performers are doing. You can hear music like a conductor hears music. You can hear everything that's going on. And you can sing, in the case of Freddie Mercury, with your voice as an instrument.
I feel alive.
They'd only gone to Zanzibar so that his father could continue his job with the British government. They were Zoroastrians, and I know that to many Zoroastrians, it is a matter of great pride that Freddie Mercury is their great rock star. When Zanzibar won its independence, they then moved to England.
In 1966, Freddie began a graphic illustrating course at the Ealing College of Art in London. He became good friends with classmate Tom Staffel. Staffel was the lead singer in a local band named Smile. When Freddie attended their rehearsal, he met the guitarist, Brian May, and drummer, Roger Taylor.
It is very interesting that Freddie pursued the group like a suitor goes after a potential lover. He thought he belonged in this group, or this group belonged with him, whichever way you want to look at it. Made himself immediately known when Tim Staffel dropped out. That was a big mistake.
In 1970, when Freddie joined Smile, he suggested they change their name to Queen, and he himself changed his last name to Mercury.
In the early days, there was a tradition that they always wore black and white on stage. And Freddie would be incredibly careful. Everything matched, everything fitted. He would have black and white painted fingernails. And he loved what was always referred to as Freddie's frocks. And he would come out and the most amazing things. Sandra Rhodes designed some for him in the early days. One with wings like an angel. And it was a long time before they changed that. For a very long time, it was always black and white. The others weren't quite as flamboyant, but that was their theme. Off stage, Freddie was always very exotic and always wore wonderful silks and satins, as did he and Roger in the early days, because, as I said, they had basically were wearing stuff that was stock in the store they'd had. And even in later years, he became very influenced by Oriental clothing. He loved Japanese things. And as you say, he loved opera. He just liked anything that was grand and exotic, but it had to be good. It had to be nice material. It had to be right, and everything had to be perfect.
I had a very dear friend of mine in the business, a very famous club called the Speakeasy Club in Margaret Street in the West End of London. And Laurie O'Leary, he said, Eric, there's a band been playing here or been there or whatever they were doing. He said, great band called Queen, you should come and see them. I always love to see new talent. And I went to see him, I think maybe the Marquee Club or one of those clubs, and I fell in love with them. I thought, these guys are going to be big, monster big. But more Freddie, not knocking Brian May, my monster mate, and Roger Taylor, I love, and John Deacon, well, I don't love John, just half a kiss John. Even in those early days, Freddie stood out. He stood out for me. He was the star, he was the, he loved it. I don't know. I think it's the old word charisma. You can have a milkman that has charisma, or a milkman who doesn't have charisma. He just stood there with these guys around him, Roger, Brian, John. He was the star of the show. He always stood out. He had that magic, that sparkle.
They had really quite a sophisticated stage show. They really worked the audience. And I mean, we all just stood there with our mouths opened and were just stunned.
In 1971, John Deacon joined the group as the bass player. Producers John Anthony and Roy Thomas Baker from London Trident Studios signed a management contract with the band, and they began work on their first album. But they needed a record label.
Well, basically the way it happened was that Jack Nelson, their manager, who was representing the band and the album on behalf of Trident Studios, who owned it, came to EMI, both the record company side and the music publishing side, and offered it to Roy Featherston, who was my boss. He was the general manager of the pop division. And basically we got a set of copy tapes, and Roy played it, thought it sounded interesting, got me and the EMI label manager at that time, Dave Croker, and we listened to it, and we actually weren't quite sure what to make of it, because it fell between a lot of things that were going on at that time, because there was obviously the very much the prog rock thing happening. There was the burgeoning glam rock thing, and they sat somewhere rather oddly in the middle, somewhere I guess in where we wanted to be in that Roxy music niche.
A few weeks later, after this shtick, I get a call from a man called Roise Featherstone, who was the chairman of EMI Records. Eric, he says to me, because he said every twice, I think I got my monster from him. Eric, want to see you, got to see you. And he said, Eric, we're starting a new label here at EMI. The EMI label. I said, we got the EMI. No, we got Columbia, we got Parlophone, we got Regal Zonophone, we got Harvest, we got Schmarvis. We want one label, EMI label, where all the new acts, and some of our old acts like Cliff Richard and Cilla Black and whoever it might be, will all be on the EMI label, with just one label. We still have the other labels for maybe specialist type shticks. So we'd like you to run it. Very simple, 5 minutes over lunch. He said, want you to head a promotion. The group I saw the other week, right, the Queen, they're called the Queen. I said, they're sensational. And I believe from my little people I know, that you are thinking about signing them.
EMI signed Queen and released their first self-titled album on the 13th July 1973.
In those days, you didn't necessarily have great expectations of the first album, and quite often, if you had a hit off the first album, it kind of skewed the process. And we released Keep Yourself Alive off the first album, and the album went okay, and by, I guess, 3 or 4 months into it, we'd made a modest impact, because by that time the Imperial College gig had happened and the first press started, and it was just a little whisper building.
The word Queen was definitely not a rock and roll name, but Freddie would have known intuitively that he was not just a rock and roll singer. He already knew that he liked Shirley Bassey and Liza Minnelli, and whether that was something he was willing to let the others discover in time, he would have thought that this band is going to be more than only rock and roll. Not that there was anything wrong with rock and roll, not that they weren't going to try to be the best at rock and roll, but there could be added value.
My first encounter with them was a difficult one, because as the marketing manager, it was my job to get the album out on the market. And literally, the entire band came in one afternoon with the artwork. And I'd made an appointment with our creative services manager, who was a difficult character. The artwork was their artwork, they had done it, and in particular, the Queen logo was Freddie's pride and joy. He'd done all that kind of filigree silver artwork, and the creative services guy, Ron, looked at it on the desk and he said, I can't do anything with that, it's rubbish. And of course, the Freddie and all the band started to bristle, and my job really was to referee this encounter.
Freddie's Queen logo embodied the regal aspirations he had for the group. It featured the zodiacs of all 4 band members, 2 lions for Roger and John, a crab for Brian, and 2 fairies for Freddie.
I think in some ways, the name didn't do them any favours in the early days, because it had obvious connotations. People thought they were something they weren't. But there was always this regal kind of feel to them. It's kind of hard to explain. And of course, the crest that they still use to this day was something that was designed between them. And I never really found out exactly where the idea came from. But by the time I knew them, they were already Queen. Having been Smile before, they'd come for something completely different. And for some reason, it just suited them.
I always got the impression that Freddie was the driving force he was the one who, in the end, they would defer to. If he felt strongly enough about it, he could get them to go along with it. But they seemed to be a unit, and I think that was very important to them in the discussion. Freddie, I learnt there and then, he had named the band, which made sense. And, of course, he was, at that point in time, emphasising the regal factor. So I remember asking him about it, because we're very regal, Mick. And he had done the logo. He had done the logo and the lettering. But it was, you know, it was a democratic thing, but you could see Freddie was a little more sophisticated than the others about things visual. But they were very charming, I mean, and they were very bright.
Anyone looking back at the early years of Queen have to understand the context of the time. Being in a group was like participating in the social network of that time. This is before the internet, so there were none of the social networks. And the way that young people related to each other and communicated was through music. And you expressed your views through the type of music you liked, through the earnest and excited communications you had with your friends about the latest records. The DJs on the radio were the human incarnations of Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. And the music had a role in society.
Queen and Freddie's writing in particular was very different from other people in that he could explore so many different avenues. And I never really understood where that came from. I appreciate he had, you know, quite a cosmopolitan background, but the fact that he could, relatively early in his career, write something like Killer Queen, which is actually really an unusual record. It didn't fit what was going on at the time. You couldn't put it alongside, you know, other comparable bands like Roxy Music or whatever and say, well, that's kind of that sort of thing. It was just a unique record.
March 1974, they released their second album, Queen 2.
The second single was Seven Seas of Rye, which, thank God, got monster play, because it's like building a house. I laid the foundation, then you put the bricks on. So the foundation really was keep yourself alive. Enough to, that foundation was strong, monster strong, enough to Seven Seas of Rye comes out, and then it took off.
If you can simplify it by saying it was the contrast between Freddie's theatricality and Brian's hard guitar work, that contrast hadn't become fully developed yet.
You know, no one really knew who they were, but Freddie knew who they were, that's for sure. He was very, very confident.
I think Freddie always really wanted to give a show. I think in some ways, a lot of his life was a show. He always wanted to look amazing. He always wanted to, and he loved the fans. He was a really nice guy. And he loved the fans, as did all the others, and appreciated them coming and spending their money and wanted to give them something to remember.
Queen come along as a self-contained band who musically, great drummer, world-class drummer, great guitarist, great bass guitarist, lead guitarist, and a great singer, which he had. He sang from here, his harp, and here, of course. But great, that's what, man. Their talent.
Killer Queen, to me, is the first of the classic Queen tracks.
She keeps a Moet Chandon in a pretty cabinet. Let them eat cake, she says, just like Marie Antoinette. Building a remedy for Khrushchev and Kennedy.
Here, Freddie has found his lyrical mode.
She's a killer queen, gunpowder gelatine.
So many parts of that song are just so clever. And then at the appropriate moments, there's the contrast with Brian's ferocious guitar. This is it. They've also incorporated the high harmonies of Roger. And I thought, this is like a new group. And this was the song that broke them in America. And it was their biggest hit in Britain.
Is this the real life?
When we got Bohemian Rhapsody, we were concerned.
Is this just fantasy?
Everyone was in shock.
Caught in a landslide, no escape from reality.
It was crazy.
Open your eyes, look up to the skies and see.
What on earth do they think they're doing? It's so long. It's 3 records in one.
And they'd never heard anything like it.
I'm just a poor boy.
You can't call it just a song. You can't call it something as grand as an opera. It's a piece. It's a mini opera.
I was the idiot who said, why don't we ask them to do an edit? And the response was a couple of words. And of course, the rest is history.
Still don't understand it. Still don't understand it. Mama just killed a man, put a gun against his head, pull the trigger. Now instead, I'm listening to it. I said, lovely, love, pull the trigger, very sad. Got a hoosh, got a schmoosh, got a koosh. No way. I said to Freddie, I love it. Not going to get it played because we've got no chance. It's like 9-10 minutes long originally. No way.
I see a little silhouette of a man. Scaramouche, will you do the fandango?
The person who thought it would be a hit was Kenny Everett, who was working on Capital Radio at the time. And it is true that he played it many times.
I'm just a poor boy, nobody loves me.
Radio 1's Record of the Week. And now Power Play and Luxembourg, which was very strong with those monster strong. And it was getting, I suppose Power Play meant something like 10 plays a night, which is a hell of a lot of plays in 1 week. You know, like 70 plays.
He's just a poor boy from a poor family, sparing his life from this monstrosity.
I phoned up the factory, we phoned the factory of a morning, if you got the figures from the night before, EMI Hayes. Hello, Bob, it's Eric here. So-and-so, how did we do? So-and-so record, Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody, 60. Oh, I knew it. My biggest fear has come true. The kids now are not buying it anymore because it's too long. 60. I knew it. 60, I can't be sure. Eric, 60,000. 60 what? And all the records I've promoted, from Silverback to Sex Pistols to Schmiftels and Elton John, Blue, the group Blue, the original Blue, all those. I've never had a record sell that much. It was then 60,000, 80,000. I think the biggest daily figure. I mean, you do 80,000 now, you'd be number 1 for 12 weeks. In those days, it was just, and I think the biggest daily figure we had on Queen probably went to about one day, 130,000.
The record went to number 1 for 9 weeks.
Bismillah, we will not let you go. Let him go. Bismillah, we will not let you go. Let me go. We'll not let you go. Let me go. We'll not let you go. Let me go.
I get a call from Freddie from Japan. He's in Japan. Eric, my dear, that's Freddie. Listen, got all the time for the video. Have you got them yet? I said, yes, it was me who given to so-and-so, who given to you. No, we're not doing Mike Mansfield, my dear. We're not me, my... I got a deal with Mike Mansfield. Contracted that he does all their EMI videos, from Olivia Newton-John to Cliff Richard to whoever, Schmerra, any, you know. I can't do that. No. No. I've paid about £400 a video, or maybe 500. We was using ITN studios in London, central London, a little, you know, where they make the news. And we used to go there 2 or 3 hours a week while they weren't doing the news shtick and do a little, you know, one camera job. You £400-500, you bite your arm off. No, Freddie's not on. We ain't gonna use. Well, who you got? We've had a meeting. Without me being there, how dare you have a meeting with me there about my budget, my money, not personally my money, but my budget. He said, anyway, we've had a meeting and we're going to use Bruce Cowles and it's going to cost about 4 or 5 maybe at the most. Well, OK, it's a similar price to Mike Mansfield, 4 or 500, but I still don't want to use him. No, 4 or 5,000. I said 4 or 5,000. Are you mad? We can make Gone with the Wind too for 4 or 5,000 in those days.
Oh, mamma mia, mamma mia. Mamma mia, let me go. Beelzebub has a devil put aside for me, for me, for me.
I don't think there was ever a disagreement because nobody ever asked our opinion and didn't need to.
Freddie said to me, "Oh, we made a short film yesterday afternoon with Bruce Gowers." And, of course, the reason they'd made it was because they couldn't do it on Top of the Pops, because they couldn't do that many overdubs, they couldn't do the segues of styles and so forth. So, but to be on Top of the Pops, they wanted to give them this clip, so they made a short film. Well, that short film happened to revolutionize the way that music is consumed, because neither MTV or VH1 would exist had it not been for that short film.
The whole thing was quite extraordinary. And again, I think people weren't quite sure how to take it, but once they saw it, they realised just how good it was.
The point about Freddie was that he was, he obviously had some strand of eccentricity about his lyric writing and his some very left field things. I mean, the music itself was so bizarre that you had no idea what the lyrics meant, and really, who cared?
I think one of the interesting things about Queen is that their songs are open to such interpretation. But I'm not going to say on camera who I think it's about.
Bohemian Rhapsody was basically, I was writing 3 songs, and they were meant to be different, and I just couldn't finish them, and I just thought, oh, damn it, I'll just put the 3 together. We just about do all our own production. We have Roy Baker, who sort of co-produces with us, and all the 4 albums have been a co-production with him.
Do you feel that Night at the Opera is perhaps you've reached a climax at a certain stage in your career? Because I believe it's definitely the best that you've ever done.
Thanks.
Yes.
I think it's possibly the peak so far, because it's the most successful. But I mean, we hope we're going to get better.
We have a different peak. It is going to be difficult, especially with Bohemian Rhapsody being as large.
Well, a kid wrote me a letter about that and said, I study demonology and satanic things. Why do they use Beelzebub? And I suppose that's a legitimate question.
Why do we use it?
Yeah.
It's just why do we use anything? I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean I study demonology and things. I just love the word Beelzebub. It's a great word, isn't it?
Very camp word when you look at it. Actually, the letter was signed with a cloven hoof at the top. What is that?
The same sect. I belong to that.
You're sticking pins in effigies.
The next single that's coming off Night at the Opera is You're My Best Friend, I understand. And already we're getting a lot of requests for that. But it's entirely different in structure to Bohemian Rhapsody, and that's what makes the album attractive to me. Is that
This
right?
is John's song.
Yeah. John wrote.
Yes, because I mean that's probably one thing in the group that we all do right, which lends to the variety of our albums. It's a very good thing, I think.
There have been several songs on your albums that have been involved with death and all this sort of stuff. Is that just an accidental thing, or?
That's Freddie's morbid mind, then.
One of my docile moods, actually. Yeah.
When I first went to Freddie's home, he was living in a flat in the Kensington area with his girlfriend, Mary Austin, and he was still the best of friends with her till the day he died. And they had a very interesting relationship. They were just boyfriend and girlfriend. And it was a very nice little flat, but it was very small. And I remember crowding in there with them one night when we'd just come back from a gig to watch Bohemian Rhapsody on Top of the Pops and sitting on his settee watching it. And Mary was lovely. And even as she and Freddie grew apart in some ways, they became the very best of friends. And she married, she had children. But their relationship never really changed. He just had other relationships as well.
Freddie met Mary Austin in 1970. She worked at Bieber, a fashionable London boutique in Kensington. Mary recalls a shy Freddie smiling and waving at her every time the band would visit. At the time, Mary was seeing fellow band member and friend, Brian May. They had met at Imperial College London. But he could tell Freddie was attracted to Mary and confessed that they'd only been on a couple of dates, pecked on the cheek, and left it there. He mustered up the courage to ask her out on a date. It was a deeply emotional attachment from the start, and 5 months later, they were living together. Their relationship held strong, but 6 years in, Mary became suspicious that Freddie was at unrest with himself. When Freddie confessed his bisexuality to her, she described it as an incredible relief. After that, he became much more comfortable with himself. He became again the confident man she had fallen in love with. Freddie and Mary never married, but they remained inseparable until the end. They lived the vows they never made.
They never talked about their sexuality, and to be honest, I don't think people cared. They really didn't. We knew Freddie had his girlfriend in the same way that all the others did. And in later years, he had his boyfriends, but that was just Freddie. And he wouldn't talk about it particularly. Nobody else talked about it. And it's hard to explain now, but I think people just accepted them for what they were, whatever that was.
If he had one love of his life, which I think his will and his testament, whatever that shtick's called, proved it was Mary Austin. Nice girl who was with him night and day and night and whatever. And she knew exactly what he was. There's nothing to hide, he didn't hide it. If he did hide it, it was the worst hider in the business, you know. We used to say, Mary, I'm going out now, I'm going to the Sombrero Club in Kensington, Kingston, whatever. So he hid it very badly, being serious-ish. Yeah, love of his life was probably Mary Austin.
I think, you know, his bisexuality was pretty much acknowledged, but that was very fashionable at the time. I mean, David had made sure that androgyny and bisexuality were extremely fashionable. So even all kinds of people that weren't the least bit gay would be running around acting like they were gay because you actually got the hottest babes that way. But Freddie was living with Mary, and of course in the end, he actually left his estate to her because they were like soul brother and sister, and they were very sweet. They had this little flat, well, it's an apartment, but a flat in London, not that far from where I had lived for the first 7 years of my life on Holland Road. And I remember I used to go for cups of tea in the afternoon with Freddie, dressing gown and slippers, very domesticated. It was fairly obvious that there was this tension that was unresolved in him, and even in the end, because Mary came back at the end and looked after him. I mean, I saw him where he talks about Mary as being the one person in his life that he truly trusted. And I've seen her on film talking about him having, when he came out of the closet and first spoke to her about it, obviously there was a battle going on inside of him. But that was when he came out of the closet. But I have pictures of the guy that he was hanging around already with someone he was having a relationship with before he finally told Mary. So he was hanging around in '74, this particular guy.
Freddie would have always known he was an outsider. He didn't even have to be paranoid about it. He was an outsider. No one had ever been a pop star from Zanzibar. Also, he did not have a classic pin-up look. And from whatever year he knew he was gay, he knew he was gay, when it was not yet common for people to be out. So, in a variety of ways, he was different. And to be powerful vocally was a way of just smashing through all of those layers.
You remember the record business in those days, maybe today, I don't know, should know, was, you know, it didn't matter to us. Gay, schmay, Dre, AK, whatever, didn't matter.
In London at that time, if you were on this particular scene, gay, straight, whatever, we were like revolutionaries. And this was the time when everybody had come out of the closet. I mean, even in America, that started, the spark started at Stonewall in '69, didn't it? So, and spread from there. So you're only talking '73, and anybody, any hip young man in London was wearing a bit of schmatter.
He come to see me one day to play me a record. So just in the studio, and he says to me, "Eric, want you to hear this? I'm the promotion man." And he puts his record on, Killer Queen. I said, love it, it's gonna be it, love it, monster, gonna be it, get bubble, it. No, you haven't, Eric, you haven't listened to the lyric. I have, no, listen again, put it on again. He's Moe Shandon in the fancy cabinet, dabba, 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 dabba. Yeah, great, no. I said, it's great, Freddie, it's gonna be it, we get plays, don't worry, we get plays than that, we get many plays. No, he said, but no, don't listen. I tell you, you haven't sussed it out of you. Unless they may sussed, or you haven't. This song's about you. And me, Bobula. Killer Queen. I'm the Queen, I'm being Freddie, and I can't have you. You're killing, and that's killing me. So I'm the Queen and you're killing me. And when you hear the lyric now let's do it again, he was right. Because I had a fancy cabinet at the EMI, which I kept Moe Shandon on. He keeps Moe Shandon in his fancy cabinet. Hair like Marie Antoinette. I know that, not now, look at me now, Bubble, I've got no chance. I used to go to Sweeney's in Beecham Place in London. I used to have, they call it a Lamar, perm, because I thought Kevin Keegan shtick, long Lamar like Marie Antoinette. And he claims, and I told
Keep some Moe Shandon in a pretty cabinet. Let them eat cake, she says, just like Marie Antoinette. Building a remedy for Khrushchev and Kennedy. At any time, an invitation you can't decline.
He certainly didn't want to talk about it publicly, any of that. He would discuss things privately. And I could name a couple of interesting names, but I won't, that I happen to know he had relationships with, but that's not for me to discuss. That's, I do believe, even for public figures, that there is, there's an area of privacy that I may be privileged to have certain knowledge, but if they want to talk about it, it's up to them. But so I don't want people talking about all the lurid things in my youth either. It's none of their fucking business.
I'm laying in my bed in the Holiday Inn, Luxembourg, about 3 o'clock in the morning, suddenly knock at my door. I thought it might have been something I've ordered. I forgot I've ordered from the, hotel. Hello, yeah, who's that? Eric, it's Freddie dear. What do you want? I just come in a minute, I'm coming up. Oh, yeah. I let him in. As he come in, I went back as well. So I just laying in the bed. I'm laying on the bed. And he said, Freddie, but what's the problem? Blah, blah. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, blah, blah. We're going to pick up at 8 o'clock. We're getting the plane back to London. No, I want to be with you. I said, well, you can be with me with pleasure. Tomorrow on the plane, blah, blah. I'll make sure I sit next to you and not the other boys, you or whoever it was on the trip. No, now. I know you're not into what I like, but can I just hold your hand? I said, that's all you got to hold is my hand, blah, blah. Nothing else, don't hold my hand. And in fact, he held my finger, in actual fact. I think my finger anyway. I don't think of my finger, I'm not sure. No, and he held my hand. So I said, nearest I got to having sex with Freddie Mercury.
Freddie was as nice a person as you'll find in his personal life. Threw great parties, had nice dinners, and would go out with a couple of people to clubs and consume too much of life, as we know. But he really was someone who lived to the full.
Any excuse, there'd be a party. Start of the tour, finish of the tour, the London gig, whatever, the gold disc presentation. So, we were never going to say no because we all loved the party too. So it was great.
He took to the gay scene in New York in the late 70s like David Attenborough would take to a nature film, to forms of wildlife. He would excitedly say, oh, look, there are some gorillas. Let's go over and talk to the gorillas. Well, Freddie was the same. in the clubs of New York. And he would recommend to me the clubs that he liked, which I have to say would terrify me because I've always been a kind of lifestyle tourist. I would be fascinated by what was happening, but I wouldn't actually partake. But he would come back with these first-hand reports. And then he would talk about the anvil.
Of course, that's interesting. You know, that persona that he adopted, I know exactly where he got it from. He got it from the guy in the Village People who used to dance at the anvil because I remember going down there once with Freddie, and there was this guy before he did up there in the gold shorts, the cap and the moustache. So interesting enough, Freddie modelled himself, I think it was Glenn. What was it, Glenn something or other, from the Village People. That's just a straight knit. Freddie and the Village People, you know? I mean, so anyone that knew anything about what the Village People meant or what this, you know, YMCA and in the Navy, I mean, it was clear as day to anybody who was New York, LA, London hip. But obviously at the time it wasn't quite as clear to the public why they were singing about in the Navy and the YMCA. I mean, now, of course, everybody understands it.
There was Don't Stop Me Now, which has become a very, very popular song in Britain.
Don't stop me now. Don't stop me, 'cause I'm having a good time, having a good time. The shooting star leaping through the sky like a tiger.
And of course, to this day, Brian feels a bit uncomfortable about it because it's a celebration of Freddie's hedonistic lifestyle, which was to kill him.
Freddie, over the years, got more remote. You see a changing lifestyle, really, and where Freddie was when you first knew him was really not a schizophrenic character, but he was actually personally quite a private person. He was quite shy, and I don't think necessarily really comfortable with new people and strangers. But his other side was the flamboyant stage presence. And I think as time went on, the stage persona really took over from the original individual, and he lived this larger-than-life character all the time. So I think by the early 80s, and especially when they were spending so much time abroad, recording in Munich and things like that, his whole approach to life changed.
Why haven't you done any interviews in the past few years?
Because I hate them.
Why?
I just hate them.
I've said this several times before, but it's just a key moment in my life with Freddie and as a gay person. In Heaven, the nightclub, in early 1983, I had returned from the United States, and I said, have you adjusted your behavior in light of the new disease? Because it had no name then. And he said with one of his flourishes, he said, darling, my attitude is, fuck it. I'm doing everything with everybody. And I had that sinking feeling. There literally is a sinking feeling. I've had it twice in my life, and that was once. And I just felt at that moment, we're going to lose Fred. And I also thought that even though he's putting up this great front, probably in the back of his mind, he thinks it's too late. Because what was tremendously unfair to the first wave of people who died from HIV/AIDS was that they became infected when it was not known that the virus existed. So they couldn't know that what they were doing was unsafe. They didn't know there was any risk. It's very easy for people to look back on a previous era with the mores and morals of today. But we have to remember that the 70s was this incredible era of sexual expression. There was about a quarter of a century where everything was, if not safe, at least treatable. Because once you had penicillin, knock syphilis on the head in the 1940s, there was no sexually transmitted disease that was going to kill you. You could get gonorrhea, but it could be treated. So in the 70s, particularly with the emancipation movements, the women's liberation and the gay liberation, people were having sex today. And then, of course, millions paid. Now, I know that Freddie did not have a test until the late 80s and did not demonstrate symptoms until the second half of the 80s. But remember, there was a 10-year incubation period, on average, between infection and symptoms. So if you were to say Freddie starts showing symptoms late 80s, if he were an average case, no guarantee that he was, but if he were an average case, he would have been infected late 70s, which makes sense with his lifestyle enthusiasms as he'd conveyed them to me. And that is so cosmically, though in no way uniquely, unfair. That sexual experimentation should become a capital matter. No one thought that was possible.
By that time, he was being pursued everywhere by paparazzi, and the tabloids were speculating on a weekly basis, every time he was seen in public. So it was that time when there were a lot of similar casualties in and around the music business, and most of us knew somebody who was similarly afflicted. So you kind of had the feeling what was going on, but he obviously wasn't made public until right near the end. But clearly, he wasn't right, and the fact that their activities have been so much scaled back by them made it clear that there was something wrong. Regardless of what it was or what caused it, he was obviously not the same Freddie.
I think most people knew that he was ill. I think nobody really knew what was wrong or how long he'd been ill or how bad it was until pretty much at the end.
Freddie was one of those persons with AIDS who responded by not wishing to be seen by the general public.
It would be wrong of us not to say that he has been depicted in certain quarters as a sort of decadent, wild, bisexual, irresponsible lover.
Yeah.
So what was actually the truth of that?
Yes, that definitely makes us very angry, because he was, certainly the Freddie we knew, wasn't wildly promiscuous. He wasn't consumed by drugs, any of these things that people are saying. He had a very responsible attitude to everyone that he was close to, and he was a very generous and caring person to all the people that came through his life. And more than that, you can't ask, really. As he moved from a relationship to another one, he was always very, as I say, aware of the effect he was having on people's lives.
We all knew that there were many people. My PA died, for heaven's sake. I mean, it was in our homes, it was in our friendly circles, and it was happening with such suddenness and force that you couldn't mourn everybody as deeply as they deserved at the moment they were dying, because it was just happening on such a large scale. In retrospect, whenever you think of one of these people, then you experience their passing uniquely and individually But then, because there were so many involved, you were just trying to keep your head above water and be good to everybody.
One of the extraordinary things about Queen and Freddie was that they had an instinctive commercial and marketing nous. With Queen, and I think with Freddie's writing, it was staggering how year on year, at that time when we in the record company were expecting and waiting for the new album, knowing that the crucial thing was, is there going to be a natural big hit? That year on year, they came up with the most extraordinary, always another step into the unexpected, something incredibly serendipitous when you, one year it was Killer Queen, the following year, of course, was Bohemian Rhapsody. Then it was Somebody to Love the following year, then it was We Are the Champions. And if you think about those records, which were some of the great anthems of rock, they were every year, we would breathe the sigh of relief and say, oh, got another one.
Freddie had certain problems, which we all know about, especially towards the end of his life. And probably some of his songs were relative to what he was going through.
Now, for the band, it would have been very difficult, and I give them full points. Knowing that something was up that was completely outside their own circle. Because unlike the theatrical community or the gay community, the heterosexual members of Queen wouldn't know as much about it. They would just know, oh, he's not looking too good, what's up, what's happening? But because they were very much a quartet, they stood by him to the very, very end. And the very, very end, of course, is that incredibly moving video.
Well, the one thing he wanted to do was keep on working in the studio. He was absolutely determined to keep the group going and to keep working, and that actually kept him going.
You see, we
for a
watched
long
earlier.
time.
We watched earlier Those Are the Days of Our Lives, and actually watching it was unbearably poignant just to watch it. So for you fellas to be in that, it must have been a difficult session emotionally.
It's incredibly difficult.
Yes, it was hard. It was really, but we were sort of trying to support him through it. And I mean, he was incredibly brave at that time. Obviously, he knew, you know, and we all knew at that time. But you know, the best thing is just to get on with life and to do it. And he did that. And I think he carried on very bravely, actually.
They put out that video, and there he is, and you go, that's not Freddie. That's a spec. Although he could still sing, you know, however sick he was, he could. It was like seeing that disgusting-looking, blubbery Elvis. I've seen footage of his last concert, and he looks horrible, but he sounds divine still, you know. So talent is a funny thing. It doesn't. Disease doesn't necessarily kill the talent, or, you know, self-destructive behaviour, and. Clearly his talent was intact right up until that last recording.
Freddie says, I still love you. And it's there for all time. You know it's complete communication, straight from the heart. What a brave man.
Freddie Mercury released a statement on November 23rd confirming the world's deepest fears. He said, I wish to confirm that I have been tested HIV positive and have AIDS. I felt it correct to keep this information private to date to protect the privacy of those around me. However, the time has come now for my friends and fans around the world to know the truth, and I hope that everyone will join with me, my doctors, and all those worldwide in the fight against this terrible disease. The next day, November 24th, 1991, he died.
And without anybody knowing now, maybe they did see all the people that flowered outside his house, or Mary's house now, and their house, Mary and Freddie's house. And I went there and I stood like in the crowd. And nobody, I thought, but not that I'm recognisable anyway, nobody knows me anyway. But I remember just in case, put a cap on and dark glasses. And I stood there and having a little tear and watched those flowers, and I put the flowers there too. But I put my sign, Economisha, mate, love Sophie. He knew what it meant.
Well, it was a sad thing. I mean, how could it not be? There was a very sweet guy who died, and I know he was because Mary told me that he was in a lot of pain at the end. It was not an easy death for Freddie. But apparently he didn't complain. Apparently he was not, and he didn't feel sorry for himself. I don't know what else he could have done because but apparently he was in a lot of pain.
When Freddie died, that was the end of Queen.
There was just great sadness. Because you felt that, like all the artists that die young, you say, well, what would have been? What would Buddy Holly have done? What would Eddie Cochran have done? All of those artists that died young, Otis Redding, people like that. You think, well, what would Freddie be doing now? Because he's the same age as me, a couple of months younger. So you think, well, Freddie at 65?
Freddie Mercury may have passed, but he never gave up his crown. Even to this day, his legacy carries Queen from success to success.
I'm struck by how many people on Facebook get in touch with me because I knew Freddie. People don't get in touch with me on Facebook because I knew Paul McCartney or I knew Elton John. It's a new generation that is attracted to a certain type of mentality in which Freddie is a kind of character rather than a person, because of course it's been 20 years since he died. So nobody under 30 has a realistic idea of what he was like. So he has become a myth. The statue at Montreux helps. The statue at the Dominion Theatre in London where We Were Rocky was playing helps. It's incredible how he is more famous and less critically famous than when he was alive. He would love it. He would be thrilled. He would be thrilled to know that I've been asked to talk about him 20 years after his death.
I still think in 50 years' time, they will still be playing Bohemian Rhapsody. I really do.
Freddie wanted to be a great diva-esque figure, a legend. And being Freddie Mercury allowed for rock to be that person. What a thrill. What an achievement. I think it's great.
Without Freddie, there's no Queen. There's no Queen, Schmeen, Scene, Een. There'd be a Brian May would go on and make millions of records and millions of sales. Roger Taylor would do the same thing with John Deacon. But they will never be Queen.
Despite relentless criticism throughout his life, Freddie's legacy has endured. He is celebrated as a brave, mold-breaking performer with one of the most recognizable voices ever to grace music. Long live the King of Queen.
It's such a great star, Bubbler. Such a great star. Freddie, miss you, Bubbler. Really do. Love you. Love you.